Hello and welcome to the fourth module in the Community Empowerment chapter of the MSMIT, a tool that offers practical guidance for implementing comprehensive HIV and STI programs for gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men. This training is brought to you by MSNGF, the Global Forum on Men Who Have Sex with Men, and HIV. This fourth module, titled Key Elements of Community Empowerment Part 2, is the second part of a detailed discussion of the elements that constitute community empowerment, as well as concrete steps towards actualising them in communities of gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men. After completing this module, you should have an understanding of 1. The next 4 key elements of community empowerment initiatives. 2. Concrete steps towards establishing these elements in communities. And 3. Resources for learning more about community-led advocacy. With these goals in mind, let's begin. In the previous module, we presented an overview of the main differences of programs done for MSM versus programs done by MSM. After that, we've reviewed the first 4 elements of community empowerment, along with concrete steps to achieve them. To refresh your memory, they are presented here. What follows is a continuation of the presentation of the key elements of community empowerment from the last module. We left off at the 5th core element of empowerment, which is promoting a human rights framework. Organisations can make a direct impact on individual lives through their activities with MSM communities. They can also make a difference on a larger level by ensuring the fundamental human rights of MSM are protected and promoted by the legal structures in societies where MSM live. This is an essential part of the community empowerment process. Ensuring MSM human rights is also an essential element in effective HIV prevention, treatment and care programs. Making this change is not easy, nor is it a process that can happen immediately. Nonetheless, organisations should work towards promoting MSM human rights from the moment they begin to work with communities. There are 3 main documents that contribute fundamentally to understanding the human rights of MSM and the rights of MSM in relation to HIV. They are 1. Key Populations Consolidated Guidelines, UNDP 2014. 2. Risks, Rights and Health, UNDP Global Commission on HIV and the Law 2012, and 3. The Yogyakarta Principles, Human Rights Jurists and Scholars 2007. The documents can be found online and are essential tools for any rights-based work with MSM communities. In many contexts, governments not only neglect to provide protection to MSM, they actually criminalise same-sex sex. In fact, 83 countries still make same-sex sexual activity a criminal offence, with penalties ranging from whipping to execution. And the United Nations Population Programme, or UNDP, has noted that laws in many countries frequently make MSM more vulnerable to HIV. In these contexts, promoting safer sex practices is often interpreted as encouraging criminal behaviour. UNDP calls for government, civil society and international bodies to outlaw all forms of discrimination and violence directed against those who are vulnerable to or living with HIV, repeal punitive laws and enact laws that facilitate and enable the effective responses to HIV, including access to services for those who need them, and to decriminalise private and consensual adult sexual behaviours, including same-sex acts and voluntary sex work. Here are some activities that promote a human rights framework. This is a tall order, and many of these activities may be challenging for even robust organisations. This is one of the reasons why community systems strengthening is so important. Challenging stigma and discrimination. Mobilising support. Educating community members on the universality of human rights. Changing the attitude of the wider community. Involving law enforcement authorities must be involved in the protection and promotion of MSM rights. And training judges and parliamentarians. The 6th core element of empowerment is shaping policy and creating enabling environments through advocacy. Advocacy is how rights are realised and respected, and is one consequence of empowered communities. Some examples of advocacy activities include community organising, educating policymakers, raising public awareness, documented community experiences, training, demonstrations, litigation and lobbying. An informative guide to MSM-led community-based advocacy is called Speaking Out, which has been translated and tailored to fit numerous culture and language contexts. This resource is available online. Take a moment to check your understanding. True or false? At present, there are 83 countries in the world that criminalise homosexuality. True. Same-sex sexual activity remains a criminal offence in 83 countries worldwide. Through advocacy, communities can profoundly influence law, policies, funding, and HIV treatment accessibility. Advocacy's potential reach is depicted here. HIV programmes can be influenced to affirm and promote the human rights of MSM. National strategic health plans can be influenced to recognise the disproportionate risk and vulnerability of MSM to HIV infection and ensure MSM communities have access to integrated, high-quality health services that are safe, affordable and accessible. Health professionals can be influenced to be sensitive to the unique needs of MSM and to provide ethical, confidential care. Economic security of MSM communities can be influenced by providing stable housing and employment opportunities for men who have sex with men. Educational institutions can be influenced to provide equal access to MSM, who are often forced to drop out of school due to enacted stigma. And donor organisations can be influenced to provide dedicated funding to MSM-focused initiatives. The seventh core element of empowerment is adapting to local needs and contexts. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to community empowerment in MSM communities. MSM live, work and play in diverse legal, political, social and health environments and identify themselves in many ways. As a result, there are varying needs and challenges, and programming should be sensitive to these context-specific differences. A useful way to assess the needs in a given context is to conduct a community-led needs assessment as a crucial part of planning and implementing programmes. The eighth and final core element of empowerment is community mobilisation and sustaining social movements. Once MSM are organised and have a strong network, they can take action. Community mobilisation is the process by which MSM use their knowledge, strength and competencies to address their shared concerns through collective action. Here is a list of examples of community mobilisation activities. Any movement becomes stronger through building alliances with other local organisations working on different issues. MSM communities should work in solidarity with other movements in their communities. MSM organisations should also be linked with organisations and networks working with people living with HIV. Collaboration between movements strengthens the collective response and ensures that communities remain at the centre of the response. Before moving on, please consider the questions presented in this self-check and assess your understanding. This brings us to the end of the fourth module in the Community Empowerment chapter of the MSMIT. To review, this module presented the remaining 4 of the 8 core elements of community empowerment, which support an environment in which MSM occupy the driver's seat of service provision programmes and other community-based interventions. In the next module, the final in this chapter, we introduce issues to consider when monitoring and evaluating community empowerment initiatives.